That was a nice nap. What were we up to,
You don't remember me, do you?
This is all a mystery to me.
Increase the brain stimulation.
That's some twisted philosophy, if you like.
I gather you're suggesting that I...
Pull to open.
Pull to open.
Yes, and what do you do?
It's a lottery, and I've drawn the short plank.
All you need to understand is that these specimens are geniuses.
If you're hoping for any positive results, you're going to be disappointed.
Now, down to business.
Here come the drums!
Hello, and welcome to an ultra-synthesized episode of Pull to Open. Yes, we are a random Doctor Who podcast. We bounce around the entire television canon in all kinds of directions. Sometimes it even feels like we're hanging upside down.
Hey.
Oh, I'm Pete Paschal.
And yes, I'm Chris Taylor, and yes, we have commissioned a completely new synthesized version of the Pull to Open theme tune, which is what you just heard. We've got a whole new Pull to Open logo. It's big, it's comic booky. The Pull to is sort of scribbled in at the top as an afterthought. It's going to be fantastic.
I think it was generated at the core of a galaxy where, of course, there's a black hole. Which would be very apt for this podcast, to be honest with you.
Oh, my God. Apt for this podcast, apt for this particular story that we're going to talk about today, which has particular resonance for me. We've talked about it on the show before. But before we get there, Pete, why don't you catch the fine folks up on where we've been before?
Cool. And if for anyone out there is new to this podcast, hey, yes, we are a Doctor Who rewatch podcast, but we have a bit of a twist. We take on the entire television canon, as I said, but it's in random order. So we're going to talk about the story that we're going to talk about today. And obviously, we encourage you to watch it. So I wanted to make sure that is set out front. We want you to watch this before we talk about it, because there's going to be spoilers aplenty later. We'll probably make a few fun references before we get to it, but we'll try to avoid any and all spoilers until we actually begin our review of the story.
Yes,
Quick
and watching
FYI.
it means watch us on YouTube and Spotify. Those are the two places you can see the video version of the podcast. All those folks out there in audio land, we love you too. But come on and check out what we got going on. Visually, we got lots of fun stuff.
You betcha. And, as promised, previously on Pull to Open. So, 3 stories ago, we were way back in time in the classic series. We went to the second Doctor's second adventure, where we believed he was still probably a little post-regeneration crisis going on. That may apply a little later. We'll talk about that. But that was the Highlanders, also the first episode to feature one Jamie McCrimmon, often talked about as both, I believe, the Doctor's longest running companion in terms of the number of stories, although maybe Clara Oswald left that. I'm actually not sure. Do we know? Do we have a count on that? Let's ask AI, because it might know.
Hey, yes,
probably.
We'll come back at the end of the show to that. So hang on for that. We'll tell you in about an hour.
Regardless of whether he was the longest running companion, he was certainly the most loyal.
Yes, and did not want to leave.
Kill a right hook.
And did not, end up getting inhabited by a shade that would take his life, or any of the dumb stuff that Clara did. So good old Jamie. But yeah, that was his first story. He didn't feature very much in it. Troughton didn't wear his fur coat in that one, did he? That may be a relevant reference.
But we couldn't really watch it, so how who's to know?
Hey,
He did wear a stovepipe hat, though.
That's
we do know
true.
that. There's enough photos. But we moved on from there to another episode that was about as far away you can get, almost as far away as you can get from that early era. But famously, it featured one of the main monsters from the Troughton era, which is the Cybermen. And it was actually the first retelling of the Cybermen in the new series, when Rise of the Cybermen Age of Steel.
That's right. The new Who doubleheader on the Cybermen that we both rated one of the best of the best, or in part best-ish.
Yeah.
Best-ish of the best.
It's a bold take on the Cybermen, and I think it mostly worked, although we will talk about a little bit about that in a few minutes, about perhaps some people who might disagree. But then we jumped from there to back in time again to the Pertwee era for probably the most apt the Randomizer has ever been in terms of lining up what we were doing with what it gave us. So right when we got this story, we were about to go to Gallifrey 1, which featured prominently the most recent story in the Doctor Who universe, which was the war between the land and the sea, which famously includes the Sea Devils. And this was the Sea Devils. We checked out the Sea Devils, where not the episode that started it all, arguably, which was the Silurians, which we had done a few episodes previously. Excuse me, Doctor Who and the Silurians. But
yes.
It's pretty remarkable how we did both of those stories in such a tight time frame.
And what else is remarkable? The Sea Devils is a multi-Time Lord story. Of course, has the Master in it, and has, I think, the first mention of the Master and the Doctor going to school together.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, I do remember that.
Mm-hmm. That might be relevant.
Okay, it could be, because it's all leading to this. It's all leading to what we're doing today. That's right, folks. We have come to Season 24, Serial 1, Time and the Rani.
Yes, deep sigh.
The crowd goes wild.
The crowd goes wild. All you Time and the Rani fans out there, you knew it. You knew this was coming. Yes, we're going to talk about that famous Doctor Who story for the ages that so many people have loved over the years. Time and the Rani. No, we're going to talk about a very problematic story, certainly in my own Doctor Who fandom.
Problematic in the traditional sense. In the,
let me just say,
current era sense.
Let me just say that 7th of September 1987 is a day that will live in infamy. And I've even gone back to my diary of the day because, yes, if you listen to our Rage Quit podcast, if you haven't, go back and listen to that. But that was the day that I rage quit Doctor Who. Just in the very first episode of Time and the Rani, we'll talk about why. If you've seen it, you'll know why. If you haven't seen it, please do not worry about needing to see it. We will talk about it for you. It is probably best consumed that way. Not to spoil any ratings there, but we're going to tell you everything you need to know about what is kind of a pivotal episode in a way in Classic Who, and in a lot of ways, like the beginning of the McCoy era.
Yeah, in a lot of ways that actually, let's just reserve judgment.
Yeah,
a lot of strange ways, shall we say? Hey, strange.
Hey, but there's no hiding the fact that the show was cancelled 2 years after this, right? So right. Obviously it's on a bit of a bad trajectory, but we'll get there. Yeah, something else that will survive for at least 1,400 more days. The Pull to Open ratings. If you're on Spotify, you can participate in this. Pull from the bottom of the screen. That's right, it's Pull to Open. You can rate Time and the Rani right now. I know you're just itching to give that a Viscount banger. But hold on there, because maybe you should listen to the podcast first. But also
if you don't know what a banger is, well, it's kind of self-explanatory in the name. We'll tell you at the end of the show.
Yep, they can't all be Viscount bangers. And this one wasn't. We're going to look at some results now, some preliminary results for the Highlanders. These polls stay open, so if you're in line, stay in line. You can go vote on this now. I will say that nobody voted it a Viscount banger, the best of the best. But there's a massive majority for the Fixed Point in Time rating, which is a show that's beyond rating. Often for reasons of nostalgia, or in this case, just because it's such a missing episode.
Right. Exactly. A lot of these missing episodes, they're hard to rate. We often say you almost have to give them all a partial fixed point in time. I try not to do that. I know you're more of a fan of hybrid ratings and totally get that. But it's true. And certainly people here agreed, because there are big parts of this one that are purely visual. And, whether it's the first episode and they're on the, after the Battle of Culloden and they're sort of in the Scottish countryside, or the last episode where Ben's getting thrown in the water and there's big sword fights on ships, right? It's like, how do you even judge that?
Yeah, the big fight, you got to see it. We got to see it. We just got a lot of grunting noises and a few teletypes.
Luckily, some people thought it was a Professor Hater, which was my rating. They kind of tried something. They did try something. Again, I thought it was a little weird with the Doctor and his crazy disguises, and again, being a little strangely post-regeneration crisis, because he doesn't really act like the Troughton that we know, although admittedly we mostly know Troughton from season 5 and 6. Mostly 6 now that I think about it, because those existed for the longest. So this is very early Troughton when he was trying some stuff out, and some of it didn't stick for me.
When he said, I should like a hat like that, and thought it was going to be his catchphrase. Well, hats may again become relevant. That may not be old hat. But I'd just like to say, before we leave the poll to open rating, that I gave it a fixed Dalek in time. You didn't like it back in school, Pete, where I experimented with hybrids, but my hybrids shall take over the universe, because if you combine the fixed point in time and the Dalek rating, which is what I gave it, then basically we've got dictator levels of like 87.5% of the vote went down on my side. So yes, all hail the fixed Dalek.
All right. Well, Bonnie Prince Chris gets to claim victory on this one.
Oh, hey, Bonnie Prince Charlie. We didn't really make that connection. We will coming up as we talk about Bonnie Langford. Yes, but go ahead. Well, we got a comment.
We got to jump. Yeah. Okay. So we got to talk about our comment of the week, and it's about the Age of Steel, Rise of Cybermen. So I knew this would happen, and I even sort of very loosely talked about this in the podcast. You know, we praised the reimagining of the Cybermen in that particular episode. I knew there would be purists who disagreed. I just knew it. And they always come out. It's strange. Whenever we do something about the Cybermen, particularly if we do something and we talk a little bit about their nature or their origins, there is a lot of opinions on this. So actually, I feel like that alone is a good tribute to the Cybermen, and one of the reasons they're my favorite monster in Doctor Who, which is that, you know, they really get your imagination going, because you think about, oh, these used to be people. They've replaced all their body parts with mechanical and cybernetic stuff. They have no emotions with the human brains, etc. There's a lot, and kind of like how the path from us to them, you really like to think about, right? So, and the story we talked about like presents a version of that. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to give, in fairness, a little bit of acknowledgement to what I would call the purists, who are saying like, actually, this is kind of an actually. Comment where, because I talked about how, like, in the origin of the classic series, how the Cybermen are traditionally from Mondas, which is not Earth. Well, it is Earth's twin planet, and they're within the context of the show and the continuity of the show, they are kind of human, you know, like, because they have parallel evolution. And so I get it. It's not like I didn't know that, but it is. I was talking more about they're not from Earth, and because they're because they want to convert humans, it just fits better that they're sort of emerged from Earth. And I do like I say, I like how the new series is sort of taking care of this better in terms of just pointing to the Cybermen as something that can happen, you know, like it's almost like a virus. So that's cool. So I'm not going to read this whole comment because it's quite long. But it does have a very kind of good assessment of what the Cybermen have traditionally been portrayed as, which is that because Mondas didn't have a sun, they had to figure out ways to survive, and being the Cybermen was kind of their least worst option, strangely. At least some people there thought so, and this is explored in Spare Parts. That's really cool, and I also, like, again, I'm not saying conceptually the New Who Cybermen are like better in a way. I just feel like, I guess the word I would use is they're more accessible, portrayed in the way they are in Rise of the Cybermen and Age of Steel. That said, the original origins of the Cybermen, yes, there's some really good dark survivalist and philosophical stuff going on there that the better Cybermen stories, honestly most of which are in like alternative media, are really, really good. And I would argue that World Enough in Time is probably one of those too. So there you go.
I mean, the thing is that we should really be celebrating the multiple origins of the Cybermen. I mean, first of all, the classic series opened the way with talking about Telos, as well as Mondas, and then having to trip up over itself constantly, and like it just, you know, I think it is fantastic, especially in a science fiction serial that's been running this long, to reintroduce your villains in multiple ways without it being a complete reboot. Just say, well, yeah, of course, this is a time travel show. It does occasionally go into other dimensions. Like, of course, there are... And it just becomes so much more creepy when it's like, this could happen everywhere. Maybe this is part of our ultimate evolution. So yeah, it doesn't have to be just humans. The Mondas thing is great, especially the spare parts thing. Like, because of the show, I listened to the spare parts Big Finish audio, absolutely loved it. So yes, thank you to Paul Thomas. Did we mention his name? The guy on Facebook?
Yeah, no, we didn't. I was going to say, I actually forgot to mention, yes, it's Paul Thomas from our Facebook page, which has been getting a lot of views lately. You can follow us on Facebook too. You're going to see all of our videos. All of our short videos there. So
yeah, and we're going to start engaging with what we're doing. We're going to engage with more folks on Facebook. So I want to give a shout out to you, Facebook folks. You're not forgotten, and we're going to have more of a conversation there.
Yeah, I should probably read at least one line from the comment, which is about removing emotion. Is as they became more machine than flesh, they found they could no longer cope with the psychological trauma of their new forms. To stay sane, they use technology to strip away all human emotion, leaving them with only cold, harsh logic. Like, again, reading that, holy cow, how dark, right?
Yes.
Like, which, again, the Cybermen are, this is explored in big ways and small ways, this is, I believe, when the Cybermen are at their best as a monster. And I do think that does feature in Rise of Cybermen Age of Steel, mostly through the conversion process that they do, and then having that one Cyberman step up and declare it was once Jacqueline Tyler. Oh,
yes.
Such a moment.
So good, and really paved the way for the Mondasian Cyberman that is Bill Potts. In World Enough in Time. Sorry, spoiler there, folks, if you haven't seen it. But yeah, the Mondasian Cybermen are fantastic. They are really just as creepy. Stephen Moffat proved that. But yeah, we have multiple options. We have multiple flavors. We have a veritable cyber buffet of Cybermen origins. They're all fantastic. And yes, thank you, Paul, for talking about the emotional aspect. The psychological trauma, that's very real. It feels very real today. Coping with trauma by using technology. Love it.
You want your comment featured on Pull to Open? You just have to comment, and you can do that on Facebook. Like we said, we're also on Instagram. Obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can comment as a comment. You can also comment on Spotify. Spotify's had comments for a while there. Really, wherever you're encountering this, you can comment. And on most social networks, we're at either Pull to Open or Pull to Open 63. We'd be thrilled to read your comment on the air. Tell us how we're wrong. Tell us how we're amazing. Tell us some new thoughts about Doctor Who. And we love to share them with our audience.
That's right. Do follow us on YouTube. We have a new goal for our YouTube followers. We're trying to hit 12,000 this year, which I believe is about 10,000 more than watch time on the Rani on its original broadcast. No, I'm kidding. Sorry, BBC. Yes, we're going to get into our own psychological trauma shortly about this story. But yes, you can also be a true companion. Once you've shared the show on YouTube with enough other people who are going to tell other people and get that follower count growing, you can become a true companion. That means what do you get when you're a true companion, Pete?
You get a whole bunch of emoji that you didn't have before. It's super fun. You also are going to get the show early. Most weeks. You'll probably get it a whole week early. Depending on when it gets to the edit. But yes, it is.
You become like the Mel. You become like the Mel of Pull to Open. You just sort of appear in our midst, and we just kind of take it as read that you're there with no backstory.
Nice. All right, folks. This is enough of this. Enough of this commenting. Enough of this interactivity. It's time to get to it. It's time to talk about the serial that we promised you we would talk about. And before we do that, we need to summarize the plot in record time. So first, number one, if you haven't seen Time in the Rani, spoilers ahoy, they're going to start coming fast and furious. So you might want to pause the podcast, go watch the show, and then come back. I suppose you're going to need physical media for that, or at least like a BritBox subscriction, because it's not really on
if you're in the US,
so much anymore. Yeah, there you go.
iPlayer if you're in the UK. And you might not want to. You might have just hit pause, and you might be now restarting the podcast after watching like half of the first episode and going, "Holy crap! I do just want the summary of that. Thank you. This is a very useful service Pull to Open's providing." Well,
So we
we're happy to do
allocate
that.
30 seconds for every classic Who episode. That's 25 minutes. So for Time in the Rani, the person summarizing has a full 2 minutes to tell us what happened in this story. And that person is one Chris Taylor. Are you ready, sir?
No. The randomizer hates me. I'd just like to say that. It knows that this story has been psychological trauma for me. If I were to do a TLDW, which is what we call this, by the way, Too Long Didn't Watch, Too Long Doctor Who. If I were to do a TLDW on what I watched originally when it was on, this would be a 2-second TLDW as I just summarize the cold open for you. And then I would just stop and I would walk off, throw my headphones down and walk off. No, but I'm not going to do that. I have now finally watched it all.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do it for you. Yep.
Here's what I think. I think it's an omen. I think the randomizer is treating you like Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne. You have been traumatized since childhood by a thing, and it's basically showing you don't just need to like get that in little bits to get used to it. We're going to throw you the most traumatic stuff at you all at once as an adult. You're going to rise and become the #1 Sylvester McCoy stan in the world after this experience. I guarantee you.
Thing is, I loved him beforehand. We'll get to that. But first of all, I like the idea that I'm going to go fight crime in a question mark sweater.
Ooh, we got to get you one of those for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got it.
All right. Let's get on with it. It is time for the official pull to open summary of Time and the Rani in 3, 2, 1, go.
The Doctor and Mel have been knocked off course by the Rani, and she knocks them down to a planet, and the Doctor has hit his head on the console, and he's regenerating as the Rani says, leave the girl, and drags him out, and tries to insert him into her scheme on the planet Lacertia, where she is got all these great geniuses of history, and they're feeding into this brain, and she's trying to hit this asteroid with a missile. Meanwhile, Mel has been kidnapped by one of the Lacertians. She actually accidentally gets into this ball that bounces around off some rocks, and we think it's going to end badly for her, but no, the ball just lands in some water, so Mel's fine. There's this whole thing where like the Lacertians are basically doing the work of the Rani and putting all these geniuses into the machine because they're being held hostage, and they're all in the center of leisure, just being very, very leisureful, and I guess drugged out, basically. But the Rani's basically holding them hostage there. She has some bees, some light bees that are going to attack them, and she makes them put on ankle bracelets. Basically, and she disguises herself as Mel, because at first the Doctor recognizes her, but then she dresses as Mel, and he thinks she's Mel because she's given him an amnesia drug, and he's also got this regeneration crisis, so she's dressed as Mel for half the thing. But her whole scheme is to get him to help her build this machine and then put him in the machine. So she does that, but he manages to disrupt her plan by feeding his stupid mangled phrases into the brain that he's been saying all along. And so she's defeated and goes off somewhere, and the Doctor gives the Lacertians this sort of antidote to the light bees that can kill them, but they say no, they smash it, they're going to go off on their own, and so does the Doctor and Mel.
Time!
And the Rani.
Boom! Nice.
All right. Thank you.
That was solid. You got to a lot of things. I was scared you weren't going to get to the disguise, the switcheroo between the Rani and Mel, but you got to it like about around minute 30 or so. So it was like, that was good.
Well,
that's a key part of this
story. It's a key part. It is an absolutely key part. And you know, I knew about it because, okay, so on September the 7th, 1987, I saw the cold open of this. I basically
Take us back.
I quit Doctor Who. I will take you back because I just yesterday looked at my diary entry of the time. I have a diary entry for that day. 13-year-old me had a diary entry for that day that does not mention this. It was such psychological trauma, I had to distract myself. But that's because I was also going through the other psychological trauma of it was my first day at big school, at like the big high school, basically the equivalent of that in the UK. And I was going through some trauma. My skin may have been going through some unfortunate changes at the time that I was more concerned with. I'd fallen out with my best friend. I didn't like one of my teachers. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on that day. And I did not mention I did not mention the fact that I just hated Doctor Who so much. I just tried to wipe it from my head. Like, I wasn't that huge a fan at the time. I'd been so disappointed by Trial of the Time Lord. We talked about this in the Rage Quitting podcast. The fact that Mel was introduced without any backstory. She was introduced in the middle of her companionship, which the show never did again, for good reason. And now here she was, and not only that, but the Doctor was being replaced. And just that cold open, if you go back and see it, I think it's the worst minute of Doctor Who, because
it's bad. It's up there.
It's bad. You can see, if you haven't seen it, even if you're a casual fan, you've probably seen all the regeneration. So you know that this is the one where Sylvester's on his front and he's wearing a Colin Baker wig, and they flip him over, and you can see his black hair under the wig. Yeah. Even though they're trying to do his face. So that was enough for me.
I want to talk about the regeneration in a minute, but I do honestly think we almost need another TLDW. No, we're not going to do it again, but you know what I mean? Like, we need one for the behind the scenes, which is to say, like, there's so much behind the scenes here that affected this, but I don't want to get lost in it, but like turn it into a behind the scenes podcast. But I do think that context is really important, and we should like really do a quick recap of it, which is to say that, Colin Baker was fired, refused to come back. We're not here to rehash any of that. It's just a fact. So they had to put Sylvester McCoy in a wig, or they actually didn't have to. There was a number of things they could have done, and we should talk about them really quickly, because actually we should talk about them. We should probably explore some of them. But the point is, John Nathan Turner, and there wasn't really a script editor yet. I think Andrew Cartmel came on after Pip and Jane Baker had, during the stuff. So what happened? They could have just started with the Seventh Doctor, and that was an option. Yeah. Like, we're just going to have the Rani capture it, and it's just not Colin Baker. It's just he presumably regenerated between seasons, which would have been interesting, bold, and then they could have. Well, and honestly, looking back, obviously they should have done that, because even 100% understandable why Colin Baker didn't come back. I don't think there's that many of us that wouldn't have been bitter in the way he was dismissed. But I will say this: mellowed really quickly. You know what I mean? Like he realized his error years. I don't know if he actually literally said I regret the decision quickly, but he eventually did. But he understood his position as a sort of an elder statesman of the show pretty soon after that, and was doing things like the Ultimate Adventure Play conventions, all the things. I guarantee you he would have come back for something to fill in that gap. And they've kind of done it, even though there wasn't a gap to fill in. They've retconned in other media sort of why he regenerates. But that behind the scenes-ness, the chaos, because it was on the verge of cancellation, it was brought back with a smaller budget and fewer episodes, and they fired Colin Baker. Like, all of that contributed to the quality and the execution of this, but also the entire era, which we've talked about before on stories like Curse of Fenric and what was that one called? Happiness Patrol.
We've done Happiness Patrol.
Delta to Batterman. Yeah.
Both, all of which I liked better than I thought I would. And part of the story of Pull to Open is me learning to love Sylvester McCoy after the terror of that experience. But I'll say some more things about the behind the scenes. First of all, it's important also to mention that John Nathan Turner is basically a hostage to Doctor Who at this point. He wanted to move on. He wanted to move on to, what he thought was bigger, better things. Like, he just, Doctor Who was kind of the ghetto of the BBC in a lot of ways. Michael Gray didn't like it, the controller of BBC, famously hated Doctor Who, had it in for the Colin Baker era. And to be honest, like, you can see his point. So he didn't want to do it. He was effectively asleep at the wheel. He hires Pip and Jane Baker to write this.
This is first mistake.
Yes.
Well, maybe not his first, but a mistake among many.
Seems to think that he had said in interviews since that he thought Pip and Jane Baker is his best writers that he worked with. So, wow, there's something very different about John Nathan Turner's conception of Doctor Who, just right there, right? Doesn't dovetail with a lot of fans. But here's the other thing I want to say. The thing that I don't think gets talked about enough is, yes, Colin Baker was invited back, but we often think that he was invited back just to do the regeneration scene at the start. No, this was all supposed to be a Colin Baker story. Time and the Rani was designed for Colin Baker to have his Caves of Androzani, if you will, to have his beautiful, sacrificial end of regeneration moment where he's supposed to be at the end of this defeating the big brain.
Yeah.
And then, after they produced a script of what was called Strange Matter at the time, the Bakers get told, no, sorry, he's actually regenerating at the beginning. And because you are now... Oh, okay. And, they're not the most, best writers with second drafts anyway, like with major changes.
Just the second draft? Sorry.
I've tried to give Pip and Jane Baker every chance with this because one thing I discovered was that a lot of the plot of this was based on a choose-your-own-adventure that they wrote for the Doctor. It was, which I loved at the time. I was like, well, maybe if I'd read that. It was called Race Against Time. And it did star the Sixth Doctor and the Rani. It was trying to invent a time manipulator, which is what she's doing here. But that's not a good choose your own adventure either. Anyway, so they thought they were writing something else. And then, because it's a new Doctor throughout, John Nathan Turner says, hey, how about we have him saying mangled aphorisms throughout?
Right.
Time and tide melts the snowman. All of this stuff.
A kangaroo never forgets.
Yeah. And then, which gives you the comedy of like, elephant doctor. Oh, yeah, all of that.
It is a trombone. It's like
fit as a trombone. Yeah.
It's
not even dad jokes, right?
Word about that because I don't want to talk about it twice. It's one of those things that I remember watching this was a kid and thinking like, oh, that could be an interesting quirk of this Doctor. Like somehow he's got this thing and he gets these cliche sayings. He just keeps getting them wrong, Yeah. And I look back at my kid self and I want to slap him silly. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is just kind of dumb. And again, I want you to finish your thoughts on the behind the scenes stuff. So, but I do want to talk about this. Like, it's one of the indicators of this, in my mind, this is the most kid show Doctor Who has ever been. Time in the Rani. It just reeks of like, this is made for children and it's a problem. It's probably the worst thing about it, even beyond the regeneration and everything. Is just that it feels very like juvenile. Anyway,
it does absolutely. And the thing that really made me rage quit was the intro, the title sequence. We've talked about it before, like that. It was supposed to be redolent of comic books. Was the idea behind it, but it just, even at the time, looked like bad CGI with a terrible logo, with a terrible, just sort of like, it had that feeling of like it was trying so hard to stay relevant that it was trying to make fetch happen. And it just destroyed the Doctor further. And I interestingly, digging into the behind the scenes of this, there were two other actors that were considered. After, before Sylvester McCoy was officially given the part. And again, I've said this in other podcasts, but I loved Sylvester McCoy. Love you, Sylvester. By the way, that's not even his name. That was a stage name that he developed after playing a character called Sylvester McCoy, without the R. But anyway, he was fantastic. I loved him in Jigsaw as a kid. Like, he was a staple of BBC children's television. So to your point, like, casting him in this was another way of saying this is a kid show again. But the head of drama said to John Nathan Turner, I don't know if he has. He said, I love Sylvester McCoy. I don't know if he has the screen presence to play the Doctor. Can you go and audition some other people? And he did audition like the guy who carried the torch in Superman 3. Who is kind of a bit of a good-looking actor. I know, right? You're like, wait a minute, Superman 3? Yeah, remember Superman 3? There's the Olympics. Okay, you may never have seen Superman 3, but it's evil Superman blows out the torch. Yes, the Olympic torch. And it's the guy who's holding it.
I do remember.
The guy who's holding it, we're processing all our psychological trauma from a youth like this. But the guy who's holding the torch, he's good-looking, kind of square-jawed kind of guy. And could have been like a David Tennant in the role, but J&T said no. We're sticking with Sylvester for better or worse, and he did, and we have to accept him now. And I've accepted him. I did buy just for this podcast, by the way. I'm holding it up right now if you can see it on video. A Sylvester McCoy action figure, not from the first season, from the second, with a natty purple coat, which I love.
Dark McCoy.
Dark McCoy. I love it.
He got darker. That's the thing.
He did. And, I love where he went. But I also want to say, like, in terms of this being therapy, I want to say to my younger self, you made the right choice. You made the right choice in not watching the rest of Time in the Rani, because you would have got even more angry at it. Yeah. But you should have probably tuned in after that, right? But I also want to say, like, I wasn't alone. I looked at the viewing figures, and 1 million people. It was 5 million the first week, 4 million the second week. So 20% of the people who watched that first episode did what I did.
Yeah, they dropped off.
Just dropped off.
Yeah,
and,
it's
again. And let's not even talk about the synthesizer incidental music.
Well, we certainly can. This is. Like I say, this kid show vibe that you get from this is the Seventh Doctor era really had to get over it to get better. And I don't think it fully gets over it until the following season. I think it starts to sort of emerge in Dragonfire. Now, Dragonfire is also sort of part comedy because it has glitz and stuff. But we're not here to talk about that one. It's starting to emerge, but it still has this sort of weird sort of 80s veneer, right? And that's what I feel like is a full display here. Now, Doctor Who in the 80s is already, you're getting sort of a kaleidoscope of colors. You get some more costumey. You're getting, it's an 80s show, but this is that times 10. You like for the synthesized music, the sort of the rainbow credits, which we've already kind of talked about. All the outfits, like Mel's outfit, the Lacurtians just look a little, I don't know, weird. There's just this, and all the sets,
they surely run weird.
all the sets and even the location stuff, it's all brightly lit. It's really like they've just completely like, okay, we're 80. Like it's glowing at you with this 80s vibe.
Yes.
And you're washed over with light and color throughout this thing. So you're already in this kind of Flash Gordon-y weird world. And then you have this story where I got to say, like, it does feel like while the story itself isn't the worst, like the dialogue feels really unreal. It feels very stilted. Bonnie Langford is sort of struggling to get out any line that has any credibility. The Rani is much better because Kate O'Mara understands the assignment. She's got to be like super over the top, chew every bit of scenery, spit it out, chew it some more, and just keep chewing it. And
she was fresh from appearing in Dynasty at this stage, so she knew how to chew scenery.
Yeah, like she knows, and her makeup got a lot thicker. It seems like it just got like, okay, like that she's not already a good looking woman, but it was like she just really done up in this role. Like again, it all just seems very staged, right? But you also, I would challenge this. I love Kate O'Mara's performance in this story, but how much would she have to change it if she was in The Curse of Fatal Death? You know what I mean? Seriously,
she is Joanna Lumley in that. Yes, yeah. Well, okay. Well, no, she's
no difference between the Rani in this story and the caricature of the Rani in something like that. And I think you see that in like Dimensions in Time, even, which is kind of that, right? I mean, some people have tried to defend that and put it in continuity, and I just don't bother. But and then you add to that McCoy. To your point, like he's got these antics. He's doing pratfalls left and right in episode 1. And just in summary, it's like I can't take the story seriously. Like I look at it, I'm like, this is the same show. And it's funny you mentioned Caves of Androzani. This is the same show that produced Caves of Androzani like just a few years ago. Like,
yes,
it just seems like an entirely different show just from the tone.
I learned that one of the episodes that Sylvester McCoy watched to get himself ready for this role was the Twin Dilemma. Which I'm like, oh, okay, maybe not that one. But he did watch a Troughton. No, he watched the Three Doctors. And he started to think he was going to base his performance on Troughton with a little bit of Hartnell thrown in, right? A little bit of the irascible old doctor and a little bit of the Troughton doctor, who's sort of the Charlie Chaplinist of the doctors, which you might think is the best fit for Sylvester McCoy if you're in that position. But he's not. So here's what Troughton had that Sylvester McCoy does not, unfortunately. Troughton projected, right? He was from the theater. He projected. It was very. You could hear him in the back, and he would have that voice, you know. Whereas Sylvester McCoy is much more sort of down here. He's much more sort of wizened. He's much more sort of being Scottish and clever, and you have to lean in to hear what I'm saying, you know. So it's not. That's the screen presence problem. It's not necessarily his height, although I do think it's hilarious that they had to remake Colin Baker's coat for the much smaller Sylvester McCoy, just so he could change out of it. But let me
just
tell
so he
you,
didn't look like he was like wearing a blanket in episode 1. You know, like he's got to have something that sort of which I get. You kind of need to do that, and we'll go with it. I don't have a problem with that.
Count me as one of the 7 or 8 people who actually liked Colin's coat. I thought it was a great idea for the Doctor. It was a great fit for the Doctor. Maybe it was because I was a kid and it was the 80s and it just sort of seemed to fit with the sort of the patchwork doll era. Like, you know, he's very much the Raggedy Man in that coat. So I kind of love that coat. And Sylvester looks pretty good in it too. They should have let him wear glasses, by the way. He was short-sighted, didn't wear contacts, couldn't see for a lot of this story, just to make it even more weird and ridiculous. Does so many falls, so many pratfalls downstairs.
I mean, you can work around stuff like that. It does seem like, though, like Doctor Who being such a low-budget show and they never have time to do it, that it's probably a bad call. I wonder why he never wore contacts. That just seems like an easy way to get around that. But yeah, I hear what you're saying with the Colin Baker's coat and the Sixth Doctor. Not that this is necessarily about that, but it is in this story. It's grown on people. It's grown on him. It's so iconic now and so associated with the character that the attempts in other media where they've shown him with like a blue coat and whatever else and almost trying to correct the mistake are now forgotten. Like basically everyone's just like, oh no, like Six has the crazy coat. He just does. I didn't love it at the time, but again, like in the entirety of Doctor Who, it certainly makes him he stands out the most when you have the Doctors wall to wall like they do in like Day of the Doctor. It's like, and that's honestly to his advantage in some ways. And and again, you can backread a lot, but like the way he ended up playing it as sort of this arrogant, sort of unhinged guy, it's kind of fitting. Kind of works.
Yeah. It worked. It was just it was the terrible scripts. But I do want to, lest you think that we are merely a hater podcast, we are a say something nice podcast. We do like to try to find something. And I will say, I was so surprised. So I knew, even without having seen it, that this episode contained a lot of Kate O'Mara dressed as Bonnie Langford. On the behind the scenes front, I love that. Do you remember when we did Reality World and Wish World and Reality Wars? It gets all scrambled in my brain. There was the line about the two Ranis. You know, the joke about the two Ranis, that based on the British comedy sketch show, The Two Ronnies. Now, the biggest laugh that I've got, and I've had a lot of laughs researching this, is that the crew on set called this story The Two Bonnies.
Ah, nice.
And I thought, I've got to say, in the Say Something Nice, the best bit by far of Time and the Rani is, hands down, no question, Kate O'Mara doing a Bonnie Langford impression. She frickin' nails it. Right?
She's awesome.
She's got a voice. It's almost like she's dubbed her voice on, right?
I have to admire the audaciousness of it, because when she first, he regains consciousness and sort of sees the Rani as Mel, and you understand her plan now, that she's like, you're like, oh, like, are you really doing this? Like, oh my God, they are. Oh, crazy. And then, like you say, Kate O'Mara is so great with this sort of backhanded like portrayal of this perky, annoying person that she finds super annoying, and she's just kind of doing it and sort of making fun of and undermining the character at the same time. Yep. In some ways, but she is so good, and it is so cool. And I strangely like that it's low tech. That she's just like, I'm just going to do this, and I'm not going to use some sort of magical, wavy makeup that the master would do sometimes or whatever. It's just, no, I'm just going to put on this outfit, and who knows where I got it, but I just threw it on, and I'll just pretend to be Bonnie Langford for an episode and a half.
They spent so much of their 250 quid budget on the moving eye on the Tetrap. Have we even mentioned the word Tetrap so far? That's the monster.
No, the Tetrap.
There's a moving eye, and the brain pulses, and like you feel like that's where the money's gone, right? That, and they hired a quarry, and that's about it. And they just shot on video.
They had to hire 3 quarries for this.
3 quarries.
I looked it up. There's so much quarry. There was too much quarry for one quarry, and we've said this before. You can't handle the quarry. Like I forget what it was. The Crotons had a lot of quarries. This out quarries the Crotons. There's so much quarry in this episode.
So much quarry, and like so that and the pulsing brain. Like you can see that's where the special effects budget has gone. Plus on paying for the orchestral sting sound on the synthesizer. Boop, 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 boop. That's basically the entire soundtrack. But the thing that really makes and the bubble special effect that was so stupid and pointless from a plot perspective, that must have cost a lot of CGI money. But the best bit in it is the Rani dressing up as the Doctor's companion, and it's just
a wig.
So good. And it's a wig.
Wigs feature prominently in Time of the Rani.
I know, right? A wig is the best thing, and a wig is the worst thing about Time of the Rani. How bizarre is that?
Yeah, I love Kate O'Mara, not just as Mel, but also as the Rani. I love when she has some asides as Mel, when she's just annoyed and has that, her arrogant veneer comes out. I think her best line, the one I remember the most, where she just goes, "Cretin." It's so bad, and like, oh yeah, she's just that's it. She says with a word like how just arrogant this person is.
She likes to say cretin. She likes to talk about the Cretaceous as well. The Cretaceous period gets another mention here.
I watched this with Grace. She was super engaged with that part of it, with the Rani as Mel, and she was always kind of like, she was asking questions on, why doesn't she notice, or how does this working? But the cool thing about that is I could tell she was like sitting up and like, oh, actually, this is really interesting, and I'm really engaged with this. And she made a comment, and it's funny how when the Rani changes back, like she clearly does a side trip to her hairdresser, so that she's just all done up. Her hair's perfect again. It's like, oh, okay, so that's a good use of the TARDIS, I guess. You just take off to Earth, and you see someone and get some hairspray.
She has a seamstress somewhere in the background, like making her just for. Also, they said leave the girl. She said leave the girl. It's him I want in the TARDIS at the beginning.
Right.
But she did. I actually kind of need Mel around to like copy her costume, which she didn't even know she was going to do at that point. She hadn't even given the Doctor the amnesia drug. So
it's weird she doesn't capture Mel, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
just
take
leave
them
the girl.
both, and Mel will put her in prison, like three floors below, or wherever the Tetraps are feeding. Like, yeah, just leave the girl. Okay.
I got to give props to Bonnie Langford, though. I feel like we do love you, Bonnie, and first of all, screaming as ever, on point, good job. No one's going to mark you less than A+ in the screaming department, right? That's basically her job. But also, she does some fantastic planking in this when she is finally captured by the Tetraps that have a very disgusting tongue that flick out. Again, things that the budget didn't need to be spent on, that tongue. But anyway, it immobilizes her, and then she has to stay still as a plank while being carried horizontally. That takes some muscles to
Oh
do
yeah,
that,
she's got
right?
doing Pilates before Pilates, I think.
I mean, she'd been in
it's
Cats
impressive.
at this point, so I believe she was in the original production of Cats. So she knew, like, she was very lithe and limber, so that's her showing off her
Yeah, and
full
she's
range
able
of
to.
skills.
She's very capable to run around the quarries and go back and forth with everything. I think again, she's down to do it. The story doesn't treat her well. Like she's constantly screaming. Like this is probably the story is where she gets a lot of that reputation. Now it's kind of like I'm pretty sure she was contractually obligated to scream at least once, like per episode, even not just per story. But like some of the ones here, like again, Grace was just like, "Why aren't you running?" Like she'd just stand there and scream while the Tetrap is just in front of her. Like just go. And even in the we talked about the bubble mine thing that she steps on, and she's in the bubble. And she's screaming the whole time, which is understandable. But then it lands in the water, and she's fine, and she's still screaming. And it's just kind of like, calm down. All right, we're going to get you out of this. And that's, I think, essentially what Icona says to her. Yeah. Wow.
So much psychological trauma that she has to go and become a Cyberman afterwards. It's a bit weird. There's a lot of that. There's the moment where there are 2 or 3 times where the Doctor evades and escapes the Rani in ways that like it's just sort of ridiculously overpowering her when she seems physically much more imposing, Kate O'Mara does, than Sylvester McCoy, and somehow he overpowers her by twisting his scarf around her, and then then there's a point where they shove her into the thing that connects her to the brain. And like she has to cooperate in being shoved into that thing. It's so obvious,
right? Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. Like I actually don't mind the idea that manifests a couple times, and this is headcanon, but it is the idea that Time Lords are so arrogant that they forget that like I can be physically overpowered. I'm not stronger than a human. In this case, the Rani. And again, there's a lot of stuff you have to fill in that she's essentially taken the Lacertian people hostage, partly through the Tetraps and stuff. And so she has somehow this physical threat over them. She kind of half forgets she doesn't have that over the Doctor and Mel. And so, again, it was shot badly and choreographed badly. But I do like that idea of like, oh, right, I'm just here and you guys can actually just do something to me. The best one for this idea, in my view, was Planet of Fire, right? When the Master's threatening Perry when he's the size of a doll, and she's just not buying it, right? She's just like, come out here and say, like, I like that idea that, he doesn't think of like, oh yeah, I could just be punched or something or kicked or whatever. So that's not terrible.
By the way, what would you say is the best Master disguise? Because
Ever?
Yeah, because here, I'll tell you why I'm asking the question. Because okay, wait, which one was that?
Castrovalva.
Oh yeah. Okay, well we'll get there when we get there. But I gotta say, like this is how good. Just to go back to the Bonnie Langford disguise, it surprised me. I feel like this is a better disguise than most of the Masters' disguises, if not all of them. Right. So that's one thing the episode's got going for it, which is nice.
Yeah, disguise is fun times.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk really briefly about the Lacertians, because I do think there's kind of a semi-interesting layer there. Now, they have the makeup that is almost like half draconian, right? They got these scales on the side, so it looks like low budget, which is fine. Again, it's Doctor Who. I'm willing to go with it, and it's not totally dumb. What I think that is hinted at that is sadly unexplored is how they acquiesce so quickly to things.
Yes.
And you don't really get the background that much of like what the Rani's done to them or how like what they think the consequences will be, aside from like the thing you talked about in the TLDW, which is the little hive, the mechanical hive that has the light. They call them light bees, which is funny. I think that's what they call the thing that creates Rimmer in Red Dwarf. But yeah, the crazy insects that supposedly come out and kill everybody. So like I get that it's like, oh, you do what I say or I'll unleash these things in the House of Pleasure or whatever it's called.
the center of leisure. I love House of Pleasure, by the way.
But it's like I'm like, well, why are you going to the center of leisure when it has all these deadly insects in it. Why did you just not go there? Like, why don't you just? I'm gonna stay and read tonight.
Yes.
It's very weird.
Okay, so I
Anyway.
got some things to say. First of all, we should give a shout out to Beus, who's a character who should really have more attention on him, given that he's the guy who, first of all, is collaborating. That's why he's called Beus. It stands for Obey Us. Nice one, Bakers. And then he sacrifices himself at the end. But again, the Doctor just sort of lets him, right? That's
Doctor's got a habit of that.
I know. Like, we really got to talk about that at some point. Like, how many people have sacrificed themselves for the Doctor just for the sake of plot convenience? But all of it, it's just that, like, the Lacurtians do shade over into unintentionally hilarious. First of all, when they appeared on screen, the first thing I said was, are they like refugees from Mad Max Thunderdome, like a Tina Turner video of the era or something? Something like they've got the headbands. They look like they're ready to do an aerobics video.
Well, they also just look like costumes, I have to say. Like, there's no lived universe here in the same way that in Star Wars you would have them and some of the stuff would be tattered and stained and whatever else. It's all just costumed.
The used universe concept, yes. Yeah, they could have done that a lot better. And I got to say, okay, the center of leisure. No British person watching this in 1987 would not have seen Center of Leisure and not heard Leisure Centre. The Leisure Centre, which was the ubiquitous name for that place in your town where you had the swimming pool and you had the squash courts. And everywhere, it was called a leisure centre. And I got to say, when I was watching this and... And there's a point where, like, Mel is being asked where the Doctor is, and I think Bayer says, "You will find him in the center of leisure." And I just said out loud, "He's gone down the leisure center." I just could not stop laughing from that point onwards. But this is a great one to watch with other people, especially because you will find multiple people will not be able to stop laughing at that moment, especially if they're British. I mean, there was you talked to Rimmer in Red Dwarf. The guy who played Rimmer starred like a year after this. I believe there was a show called The Britass Empire. That was a sitcom. It was sort of like a proto-Office, The Office, but set in a leisure centre. And he was the sort of the obnoxious boss of a leisure centre, right? So
he gives good obnoxious boss prosperity.
Right? So yeah, that's what Time in the Rani, the Centre of Leisure, and the Light Bees all made me think of was Arnold Rimmer. Oh, boy.
I got to give a little more points. There are some other things I liked. I did actually really like the end of episode 3, which is a bad cliffhanger, but I love it as a story point that the Doctor, because of his personality quirks and because he's sort of post-regeneration crisis, like, he screws up the brain just by being so weird and random. Like, he's just like the whole... And, the Rani is, "I'll kill him!" And it's actually really funny. I just like that whole idea of, like, oh, he's been absorbed into this thing, and she doesn't take into account that he's just a weirdo, and he's just going to screw it all up.
He's screwing it up. He's screwing up. Like, you can hear Einstein thinking in that, which is like, I don't know who the voice is, but clearly they did not pay the extra who played Einstein any money at all to speak. Which means that at the end, we didn't even get to this. The Doctor takes all the genii that the Rani has collected. He takes them all home. Einstein is I got my Einstein book up on the shelf here, just to represent him, because he doesn't get to say anything. Albert freaking Einstein walks into the TARDIS and does not get to have the "it's bigger on the inside" line. It's bigger on the inside. Like, at least give him that, you know? Or someone. By the way, does Einstein count as a companion in our companion count?
I don't think he actually travels in time, and that's one of the things about this story. It was famously undateable for a long time. Like, it could have happened in any era because the Lacurtians aren't human, and we have no idea when it's supposed to happen until they did some kind of live action tie-in with it. I forget exactly what it was called. But then it's like the Rani captures, I forget their names. One of the names is Lucy, but human children that were contemporary or close. It was like around the year 2000. So it should be around the year 2000 is kind of what this is. So technically, he would have had to travel in time then to bring Einstein back home. But I don't know. I think you might, like in our true companion criteria, if it's just a trip back home, I don't know if that's going to count.
But he's certainly a
only in
taxi
one
service. He's
yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
Einstein, I actually wasn't too bothered that they underutilized Einstein. Obviously, the story's not about that. I think that's an untapped thing. They should probably do something with that at some point. The Doctor meeting Einstein and having an actual adventure with him. I mean, he already did Tesla and everybody else. Why not the man?
Right.
So I did want to take a little bit of time just to sort of unpack a little bit of the Rani's plot, like her idea, and we're going to get to it maybe whether or not it succeeded in a moment. But I did like that they made some kind of attempt, even though it's a lousy attempt, of Doctor Who as education, because right around this time, the whole idea of strange matter and dark matter and these sort of cosmological ideas were being we're starting to gain some traction in the mainstream.
Yeah,
and
it was
it's
sciencey.
kind of cool. Yeah, it's a little pseudoscience-y because he not much was known about it, and you don't really learn much about strange matter other than it's dense or heavy. So it's not the best Doctor Who is education, but they were trying. And also, like I say, the Mega Brain's pretty fun. I will say the thing that is the downfall of all this, though, is that because you never get to see the Rani as a time, like you never see even a version of her succeeding. You have no idea what the stakes are. Like the Doctor talks about a time manipulator and what she'd be able to do, but you ideally would like to see have a taste of that to sort of know what was really going to happen, and it never really happens. And so you don't. It's all just kind of in the background, and you're not really sure why anyone's doing anything.
Yeah, it's definitely hodgepodge together like the Sixth Doctor's coat, and there are sciencey bits. There's even like materials and chemistry. Like there are two different kinds of plastic that the Doctor and the Rani discuss, like PEB and PES or something. Like, first of all, who cares? Secondly, like, is this what's the Rethian thing here? What are the kids supposed to learn from this? Like, is this sort of the Doctor Who equivalent of The Graduate, where it's just like one word, plastics? All you kids
one
out there.
word, Mega Brain.
Like, what's going on? So that's very Pip and Jane Baker all over. It's like they're sort of hinting at science and at, pseudish sciencey stuff, but they're not really taking it very far, are they?
Well, I don't think we're ever going to answer the question of what they were thinking, but we do have some other questions that we can answer, and those are, of course, the 4 questions to Doomsday.
Wow.
Synthesizer there.
I know.
First question. Why did the randomizer take us there?
Oh, the randomizer hates me. No, it wanted me to...
All right, done. Moving on.
Yep. It wanted me to confront... I mean, yes. So there's definitely the connection between this and the Sea Devils of the Doctor talking about a Time Lord that he went to school with.
Right. Isn't it interesting that they gave both their ages as 953 in this story?
Yes.
And then in the new series, he's regressed to 900 when they reboot it. You kind of like...
I didn't realize that.
I'm such a big Doctor Who nerd. I remember when it debuted in 2005, and he said he was 900 years old. And I was like, didn't the showrunner, who's supposed to be a fan, see Time in the Rani? Like, shouldn't he be a little older by now? Like over 1,000?
We could headcanon this by saying that the Doctor was not in his right mind at the time.
But no, it's the code is it's like 953 because that's the Rani's age. So it's the Rani's code.
Yes.
So that doesn't work.
Yeah, good point. It doesn't work. Yeah, so he is actually 950, unless she was like a very mature student. But is this the first time in Doctor Who history that he says an actual full proper number for his age rather than just like 900?
Well, this is the other thing. They have previously said his age. So in the Ribus operation, it's either 745 or 749. We're not sure. But in any case, it's like in that neighborhood, right? So he's aged roughly 200 years, his personal age, by the time he's Sylvester McCoy. So, which is kind of interesting if you think about like, well, where could he have like felt like it's like the 200-year gap in Matt Smith's era, right? Like, there's got to be some gap somewhere where, and because the companions tend to overlap, it's hard to find these, you know. So you kind of have to like assume anytime there's some kind of clean break between companions that maybe there was just a long time, and also you could argue he and Romana both being Time Lords when it was just the two of them could have been a long time.
Yeah, that's true.
No.
That's true. We could also say, by the way, in terms of reconciling it with New Who, my headcanon is going to be that the Time War just was like, it was like daylight savings at some point during the Time War, that they just, everyone went back 100 years. Yeah.
There's been so many reboots and cracks in time type stuff, the Logopolis, etc. You know, that's made a jigsaw of his history, shall we say. And,
do you like it?
Yeah, so I think it's fine, and I think Stephen Moffat's explanation, which I'll totally take as canon, is he's just so old he's forgotten. and they've even made reference of this in the series. Once or twice the Doctor has said, I'm so old I don't even know if I'm lying about my age anymore. Like there's a line somewhere in there, and it's like, it's great.
Yeah. All right. So
Cool.
so that's a reason to take us here. I think it just we're just
my reason is
revisiting.
that the Highlander is on a disguise kick.
Yes.
So we had the Highlanders where he was just disguised as everything, like the old woman and the soldier and the German doctor. You have the Doctor and Rose slipping on kitchen staff stuff in Rise of the Cybermen.
Yes.
And then the Master, of course, was a senior naval officer, you may recall.
Yes, he
in the
was.
Sea Devils. And I mean, it wouldn't be a Master story if he wasn't throwing on some disguise, right?
Exactly.
So
And that
there you
might,
go.
in terms of brazening it out, that might have been one of the Master's best disguises. Even if it doesn't, costume from amateur dramatics. Maybe
Yeah, well,
mentioning
certainly-
amateur dramatics in the Sea Devils was a preview of what was going on here.
Well, it was certainly a big hit with the ladies. Speaking of, moving on to the second question, what if the evil plot had succeeded?
Okay, so as you say, the evil plot is very complicated. There are so many layers. There's a rocket, there's an asteroid, there's strange matter, and she's trying to build a time manipulator, which is...
Well, that's the ultimate thing. Yeah.
Which is basically the key to time, as I understand it.
Yeah, the Doctor sort of talks about she could control evolution on a grand scale or something along those lines. It sounds like it's either the key to time or the Infinity Gauntlet. It's planet-sized, I guess, where I don't know if somehow if she does something to Lacursha, it shrinks and it turns into kind of a... I don't know. The thing is, we never see it fully executed, so it's hard to know.
Right.
But I think you have to assume essentially obviously the rocket hits the strange matter if she succeeds. So you have to say like, okay, maybe Bayes is just too late, or maybe he chickens out because he's a chicken.
Right.
And
Maybe he's like, why should I
doesn't-
sacrifice myself for the Doctor?
Yeah. And so the Rani gets the time manipulator. The problem is Uruk, her Tetrap slave, is already wise to the fact that she's just going to leave them there all to die. So the Tetraps have already set up their trap in her TARDIS. So she goes to the TARDIS and she thinks she's going to reap the benefits of this time manipulator, and it turns out she ends up being a slave to the Tetrap. So maybe they end up forcing her, or at least trying to force her to do what they want. So we get the Tetrap version of reality. But at the same time, in this scenario, the Doctor and Mel aren't necessarily dead. They're already running off and going back to the TARDIS, right? So even though Lacursha gets turned into a time manipulator, they're still potentially there to take down the Rani / the Tetraps. And I have to think, in my world, there's no way the Tetraps can really pull one over on the Rani if they try to sort of force her to do her thing and treat her like Jesse in Breaking Bad or whatever. she can fool them enough to basically have them erase their entire history, and so then she takes control of it, and then it's the Doctor and the Rani, fighting for control of the manipulator. And if the Doctor, and we have to assume the Doctor's going to win that.
But surely the Tetraps are going to get close enough to her to just paralyze her with the tongue and hang her upside down.
They do that. Yeah, that's what I mean. They do that, and but then what's their plan after that? Well, they have a time manipulator now. Yeah. So they force the Rani to do stuff with it, but because, and that's actually probably how she bargains for her life. Like she'll go like, you have the power of creation now. Let me show you how to use it. And so they're like, okay, show us how to use it. And then she erases them. That's basically how I see that playing out.
I'd like to think that the Tetraps, by the way, the eyes going back and forth, they're doing that, what's it called, ASMR therapy, where you just look at the right going left and right. So they're very psychologically like, A-okay. But also, one more behind-the-scenes thing, since we're talking about the Rani hanging upside down. This was originally how the Rani was supposed to be introduced in the show, but because this story was such a comedy of errors, Kate O'Mara, they filmed a scene where she was hanging upside down for so long, or they were just rehearsing it, and she was left hanging upside down for so long, she burst a blood vessel in her eye.
Yeah. Don't do this, folks. It's kind of like you should know. I mean, not that she should know, but the crew should know, they should have figured that out.
She's the MVP of this.
It's the 80s.
What are you going to do? Yeah, hanging upside down, bursting a blood vessel in your eye is the easiest thing that could happen to you in an evening in the 80s.
So last note about the time manipulator, I would just say it sounds like such a powerful device that surely the Time Lords would have something to say about this if she actually succeeds. So I never thought, that the Rani was this is she's only in 2 stories and this is one of them, so never. I mean, I guess it's overstating it, but the idea that she wants to do master level stuff, right? That she wants to take over the cosmos. I don't think that really fits what I'd like to see in the world, because we already have a master, right? So I don't know if this plot is. I don't know if I love it. Again, you never really see it come to fruition. It's a little abstract, so you never get a good sense of it. But I think it's less interesting to me than what she was up to in Mark of the Rani, even though the stakes here are arguably higher, or they're supposed to be.
Right. I mean, in both evil plots, she's trying to wipe out humanity because she loves the Cretaceous period so much, I guess. So there's that whole speech where the Doctor's like, think of everything would be destroyed, Leonardo da Vinci, Elvis, all of that. Which is just a weird list of names that he comes out with, which is cribbed, by the way, from the Choose Your Own Adventure book, which is also where you get the name of the time manipulator from. It's not clear in that what it does either. So it really is just a MacGuffin.
Indeed. All righty. Moving on to the third question, which is, where is the Clara Splinter? Clara Oswald, of course, splintered in time at the end of the name of the Doctor. She's somewhere in every single Doctor Who story. Where is she in Time and the Rani?
I mean, I'm tempted to put her in the regeneration scene just to be like, she's made the Doctor's face look weird so that he's already partially regenerating and his hair is regenerating first. And she's somehow shrinking his costume with him so that smaller Sylvester McCoy is not in a larger, ridiculously large, big style Colin Baker costume. But I'm not going to say that. I'm going to leave her out of that bit because I think she's the one who has provided the Rani with the Mel costume. Because, and I know we don't normally have Clara on the side of evil, but I think that she just knows that the Doctor kind of needs a bit of time to get over his post-regeneration stuff. He's not really in his right mind. He thinks he's ready to get down to business. That's the first thing he says when he wakes up on the Rani's table before he's given the amnesia. But I think he needs a little bit, he needs to work through his own regeneration trauma. And she knows that, and one of the fastest way of doing it is to at least assist the Rani in that part of the deception. Also, I think she just thinks it's screamingly hilarious. So yeah, she's Clara the seamstress.
Nice. I have a tie-in with Governess Clara,
Okay.
who, if you remember when she is talking to Madame Vastra, that the word that gets him, the doctor, pay attention and basically re-engage with her is pond. And here there is a convenient pond that Mel lands in. So I believe she has taken that word and used it to, like, wait a minute, I should put some ponds around the Rani's base and do that well in advance of her even coming here to make sure that the body count from these mines is not nearly as high as it otherwise could be. And it saves Mel's life.
I love that so much, especially because of Melody Pond. Right?
Nice.
Melody Pond. So she knows specifically if she hears someone named Mel, she's like very quickly fill in a pond over there. She's basically a Lacurtian. She's a Lacurtian with a hose. Just wandering around with the hose, just like filling in areas.
There it is.
Of water.
Cool. All right. So, folks, we're going to go to the fourth and final question, but not before I tell you about our newsletter, which you can subscribe to at pull2open.net. You will get full written notes on every single one of our randomly picked episodes. There's always a few things we don't get to. There's some good background on the story. And if I do say so myself, some clever headlines and plot summaries of all these stories. So go ahead and subscribe at pull2open.net. And it's also a great way to get alerted that, hey, we have a new podcast that you might want to check out. And now, moving on to the fourth question, the final question, the only question that matters for Time and the Rani. What did we think of this story? The Pull to Open rating system has 7 ratings. There's the Dalek, which we give to a good episode of Doctor Who. There's the Ogron, which we give to an irredeemably bad episode of Doctor Who. The Professor Hater, which is a not-so-good story, but hey, at least we learned something. The Viscount Banger, which we reserve for the best of the best. The Fixed Point in Time, which is a story beyond rating, usually for reasons of nostalgia. The Lady Cassandra, which is a paper-thin plot, but hey, at least it looks good. Or the Zarbi, an episode so bad, it's actually kind of good. What say you about Time and the Rani?
So I got a bit of a surprise for you, but I think that it's going to be perfectly led into by if you give me your rating first.
Absolutely. This is an Ogron. It's an Ogron. It's a bad episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
But it's an Ogron that dated Cassandra once. Again, it looks good in the sense that there's an 80s rainbow pastiche, and there's a bit of a kitschy quality to watching it now. It's like, oh, okay, like you look at Bonnie Langford's outfit and her perm and the Rani even, and you're just like, wow, this is 80s. And you know, it's like eating it's like eating nerds, you know what I mean? Like you're kind of like, oh yeah, I'll try that once in a while and remember the sugar rush, but I'm certainly not going to do it on the regular. Other than that, though, I think it's completely okay, and I have a lot of sympathy for your younger self to be disappointed and angry at the show for not just making this story, but making it McCoy's debut. And unfortunately, when you do that, it sets a tone, and this sets a tone for his whole first season. You see echoes of it in Paradise Towers. You see it in Delta and the Bannerman.
Yeah,
a lot of that neon silliness that I'm sort of talking about, like, just continues. And you honestly do see it throughout his run to some extent. McCoy and the writing and Cartmel get much better season 25 and 26. There are more bold things, there's darker things, there's more fun, and it feels more like Doctor Who. So thankfully, they wised up. Sylvester McCoy's Doctor ended up being much more mysterious, much more darker, and really just rich, that they ended up a rich kind of canvas that they ended up mining a lot, obviously, in the New Adventures and stuff. But if you look at Time of the Rani, like, I don't see how you argue that this era didn't start on the wrong foot. No, it's an Ogron for me.
It certainly did, and my younger self would have rated it an Ogron. He's right there with you. But I gotta say, my older self, the big surprise, the big plot twist of this entire podcast, I'm not going to rate it an Ogron. I'm not going to put it up on the worst of the worst. And part of it is the fact that, so I watched this with Jess, my oldest Doctor Who friend, and we cracked up so much about the center of leisure thing that it is now in the sort of the Hall of Fame along with Fort of Doomsday in terms, and a little bit of the Sea Devils, right? So the guys, the guards on the blown out Citroen 2CV, like with their capes and, just couldn't stop laughing at that. The moment that I couldn't stop laughing at this, we couldn't stop laughing at this, was center of leisure. He's gone down the leisure centre. And also we imagined ourselves, back in the 80s being like, oh yeah, where's Kev gone? Oh, he has gone to the centre of leisure. You'll find them there in the swimming pool. That was so funny that I have to give it at least half a Zabi. And I think the other half has to be a fixed point in time. Because...
okay.
It just is what it is. It was just a collection of really bad decisions, a mess of a show that was left because, with a producer who really didn't want to be there. Everyone was asleep at switch. That it was beginning a decline. Everyone kind of, I think, internalized the idea at the BBC that this was a bad show. So it's really, I want to say it's not their fault. And Pip and Jane Baker, I mean, they just didn't, they didn't even know how to write a Choose Your Own Adventure novel. There's so much in the Choose Your Own Adventure novel where it's like roll a die to decide which one to go. Well, no, why didn't I just choose? Choose your own adventure. Oh, God. Anyway, so, they were the wrong choice for this. And, of course, the fact that Colin Baker wouldn't come back for a whole story, which, respect. He needed to get his work on. It would have been in the spring. It would have prevented other commitments. He's a working actor. So I get it. But yeah, so it is a fixed Zabi in time for me. I do like to reclaim Doctor Who stories if I can, and that's how this one was reclaimed. It was just funny to watch. It's so bad that it's good, but also the problems are very fixed point in time-ish.
Nice. That's a fair assessment. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Wow. Sounds
Thank you.
You've come to a good place with your relationship with this story. Well, we need to get a relationship going with another story right away. And so we're going to jump back into the TV canon known as Doctor Who and activate the Randomizer.
Yes, pausing only to wonder why Pythagoras had nothing to say about entering the TARDIS as well. I think some of these geniuses would have mentioned something.
Whatever you would have had to say, I'm sure it would have been right.
Hey... I'm sure Pythagoras would have had an angle on the TARDIS.
Oh,
hey, that's a Pip and Jane Baker level joke. I got a million of them, but we don't have a million stories left because Peter's sitting at the controls of the Codex. That's one half of the Randomizer. That's the list of all of the stories that we've done and have yet to do, our past and our future, all in one. And Pete, what is the magic number of stories that we have left?
Sir, we are getting so close.
To the halfway.
We are almost halfway through this thing we call Doctor Who.
That's right. We're actually we're close to the halfway mark. The halfway mark is 160.5. Couldn't be a complete number.
Yeah.
But we're now at 161.
Correct.
So we're almost. Next time, between this time and next time, is the big finish adventure of the halfway point. We'll never actually see it in our show continuity, but the halfway point is out there. We'll be beyond it very shortly. But before I hit the regenerate button here on random.org, where I've entered 1 and 161, random.org, by the way, uses atmospheric noise and the amount of strange matter in the atmosphere that atoms bounce off, saying, "Whoa, what was that? That's strange matter." And that's how it gets a random number, because algorithmic randomness, computer-based randomness, even AI-based randomness is just terrible. They can't do it, so we use random.org for that feature. But before I hit that generate button and send atoms bouncing around Earth's atmosphere, we do like to issue some requests, challenges, please. Pete, what have you got for the randomizer this time?
All right, here's what I've got. Randomizer, take us to any Doctor Who story that has nothing to do with anyone named Baker. Nothing against the Bakers. The Bakers, some of the Bakers are great. But, you can have too much of a good thing, shall we say, for a Baker thing.
Yes.
You can get baked a little too much.
There's a line somewhere in the behind the scenes stuff I was researching where it's like, the Bakers failed to persuade Baker to return. I'm like, why didn't you bring in Colin Baker? Like, you're almost 4 through a baker's dozen, Anyway, so nothing with Baker in. I love that. I'm going to say, let's do more Sylvester.
All right.
I'm in it. I'm in it. Like, I've gotten over my trauma. I've got my little Sylvester figure. There's a lot of good stuff that he did that we haven't been to yet. Sure. I'm done hating on the Seventh Doctor. Give me more Seventh Doctor. All
right. Cool. No Baker, but pro McCoy.
Yes.
That could work.
Actually,
that could work.
There will be no more Baker, right? Because this was Pip and Jane Baker's last contribution to Doctor Who. So we're guaranteed no Bakers if we stay in the Seventh Doctor's run.
I don't even want them as a key grip, okay?
Yeah.
Anyway.
If I see a Baker anywhere in the credits, Randomizer, it's on you. All right, give me a countdown.
In 4, 3, 2, 1, pull.
Whoa, Nelly.
63.
Oh, okay. We are at... It answered your call, my friend. We are at the greatest show in the galaxy.
Hey, look at that. Hey,
actually answered.
Seventh Doctor, 2 Seventh Doctors in a row. I think that practically makes him the 14th Doctor, although that might be a bit confusing. But yes, greatest show in the galaxy.
This is the closer of season 25. So,
okay.
Yeah, fun stuff. So obviously as Ace,
yes.
As I recall, there are some robots, and we just finished a Doctor Who era with a lot of gods. And we may be encountering some more of those in our future.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Believe there's a guy named the Professor in this. I'm looking forward to finding out who that is. Anyway, yes, all right. Well, that's it. You've heard it. That's it from us at Pull to Open.
That's right. It is a podcast, by the way. That's what we are, in case you're not sure. You know what podcasts are good things to do with? You can follow them. You can subscribe. So just in case you're not, please do that, especially if you're on YouTube. All the likes, all the subscribes, all the reviews, all of it does put the podcast in front of more people. So they're very helpful. So if you haven't reviewed the podcast in Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can give a rating. Please do that now. I really appreciate that. We also would really like to voice our appreciation for Martin West and the music that he makes for us. It always makes us sound a little more professional, and we're very appreciative of that. And we will be back very, very soon with more thoughts on Sylvester McCoy, his doctor, and all the robots that he talks to death.
Yes, okay. Well, we will see you at the Psychic Circus on Seganax. There's going to be a lot of alliteration next time, but I am looking forward to doing more of the greatest show in the galaxy, which, of course, is Pull to Open. Thanks, everyone.